Hello again everyone and welcome back to the channel. So I noticed it's been almost 10 months now since I last did a large scale review. Just kind of got away from those kinds of videos for a while. But I've had some large scale models sitting under the workbench that I've wanted to take a look at. One of them being this EMD NW-2 by USA Trains. And this is a first because I've never had a model by USA Trains. So I'm really curious to get this out of the box and see just how good or bad this unit is. Now in regards to the box, there's really not much I can say about it. You have what almost looks like a blueprint of the unit itself on the front here, and then there's also a list on the bottom of some of the features that this unit has. And elsewhere on the box you've also got what looks like more sort of like blueprints, including on the bottom there as well. But going on the end here, you can see we've got the product information for this particular unit, but other than that, there's really not a whole lot else I can say about the box. Alright, here is the unit out of the box. And there was also some accessory pieces which will have to be fitted here. And of interest, I noticed that I have two owner's manuals for this unit, and I'm not exactly sure why that is. Maybe I'll talk about that here a little bit later. But in the meantime, I think I'm going to go ahead and get these parts put on the model, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at it. Currently in the process of installing the accessory pieces on this unit. The smokestacks just snapped in place. However, when I went to install the bell, I noticed it was in the wrong position, so I went to adjust it and I couldn't get it to move. And upon closer inspection, here I come to find that somebody has actually superglued this in place, which clearly they had no idea what the hell they were doing. Must not have known anything about trains, but now I'm trying to figure out if I can break that loose and readjust it without destroying this piece. You know, in regards to this unit, it was sold to me with the claim that it had been purchased from a retailer and basically just sat in its box. The person never used it. Well, I'm starting to see evidence that that was not the case. Alright, so it's actually the next day. And I did get all the accessory pieces fitted to this unit, and I actually had to go in and fix the bell because, as I figured when I was trying to take it apart, despite being really careful, I still managed to snap the pins off. But I was able to make some new ones out of some paper clip, and I think it turned out pretty good. You wouldn't even be able to tell that was ever broke. But yeah, got the railings and the lights fitted to both the front and the back of the model. And before we take a look at this real quick, I'm just going to give you all a look at the owner's manual. So I received two owner's manuals with this model, although I'm thinking one of these might have been for the calf unit. It's a possibility the person had one of those and accidentally put both of these with the switcher. But both manuals are identical, and I will show you one of them here, which if you want to read anything, you can pause the video and take a screenshot, read it at your own leisure. Mainly just talks about history of the locomotive, features, assembly. There's also information here on operation and maintenance and service. And then lastly, there is a parts list here if you break something or need to replace something on the unit. And then also a little information on the back for installing knuckle couplers, servicing, and the limited 1-year warranty, which I don't think applies to this unit being I bought it used. But there was also this little thing here for warranty registration, which I don't think I can send this in, again being because I got the model secondhand. I don't know, that's how it is with other manufacturers. I don't think USA Trains would be any different. Now getting onto the model itself, I have to say that at first glance, I really like the overall look of this. And I'm a fan of these switcher units, and as I mentioned previously, this is the first time I'm looking at a model by USA Trains. So to just look at this and be impressed with the finish of it, it does not disappoint, to say the least. But with this model comes a list of features, which according to the owner's manual provided by USA Trains, Those features include a powerful dual-motor 8-wheel drive powertrain, which means each truck is driven by a separate motor and all wheels are driven on this unit. There's also dual operating smokestacks that puff real smoke, and then also metal handrails, which I had to install, but also front and rear directional lighting, interior cab lighting, also opening cab doors. There is a detailed cab interior complete with engineer and control panel, which I kind of question that because, as you can see, there is no engineer in the cab of this unit. But also, there's authentic detailing including diamond plate walkways, grating on the steps, window shades, sliding windows, and MU connections. And then lastly, it has an expert decoration reproducing authentic paint schemes of your favorite railroads, which you can see in this case I've gone with the Union Pacific livery just because it's the most appealing out of the ones that I saw were available. And I have to say, you know, I really do like just the attention to detail with this unit. But another thing I want to point out is you'll notice that the trucks on this have suspension springs, and that's something I believe is present on all USA Train stock. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. And probably one of the last things that I have to say about this is just, again, the overall quality that I'm seeing here. As I said before, this is the first time I'm being exposed to a USA Trains model, and I'm just really impressed with what I see here. Another something I wanted to mention is that behind the grille on the front of the unit is a hidden control box which has switches to control the on-off function of the motor, smoke, and the lights. And as a word of caution, it's recommended by USA Trains that in the case that you are running the unit without smoke fluid to switch the smoke switch to the off position, because doing this will prevent the smoke generator from burning out. Now, while I've talked about how impressive this model is and how much I like it, there are some criticisms I do have. The main one being the screws on the sides of the trucks here. And my biggest issue with these is it takes away from the realism of the model, because you've got these exposed screw heads on the side of the model in plain sight, and it just doesn't look right to me. If you go back to the review I did on that LGB boxcar, that was one of the complaints I had with that, is you had exposed screw heads on the sides of the model and there was no attempt whatsoever to hide them, which I think USA Trains might have been able to get away with this had they painted these screw heads silver to match the trucks. It probably would have camouflaged them a little better. But I guess another problem I have with this, and is something that's not really on USA Trains, is the fact that the model did not come with knuckle couplers to swap out because I don't use the hook and loop system. And I think that's more to do with the fact I purchased this second hand and the previous owner probably didn't put them back in the box, because I was actually looking at the owner's manual that came with the unit, and on the back here it says about knuckle coupler installation, and it says down here, attach USA knuckle coupler B with screw number 4C provided. Well, if they're saying the screws provided, wouldn't that mean the coupler was provided as well? Like I said, I think that issue I have there is more so on the previous owner and not so much with USA Trains. But still, this is a very impressive unit, and I still like it even despite its couple flaws. For comparison, I got some other large-scale diesels from my collection to put up next to the NW-2. And the first one is my Bachmann 040 gas mechanical, which I believe the real locomotives may have been gasoline powered, but this is 120.3 scale. Then I've also got the LGB 2090, which this is 122.5 scale. Then I've got the Bachmann diesel, which I'm not exactly sure what the scaling is on these Thomas models. But lastly, the NW-2, which is 129th scale. And it's really great to have that model in my collection, being that I don't really have that many large-scale diesels. Another comparison I wanted to do was get a piece of rolling stock to put behind this locomotive, and I picked out my LGB boxcar that I looked at last time. And seeing this locomotive with some rolling stock now really makes me want to put together an entire consist. But it's kind of funny, over time I acquired some 129th scale rolling stock and eventually wanted a locomotive to go with them. And part of the reason I picked out this little switcher here was, one, because the price was right, but also because it was small enough to work on the curves that I have, because I don't have anything larger than 8 foot, and that's really not something that the Dash 9s can negotiate. Well, before I wrap things up, I'll give my final thoughts on this model. And like I mentioned earlier, I am really impressed with the overall look of this, and considering it's the first time I've looked at a model by USA Trains, I would definitely buy more of their models if I had the opportunity to. Which, in regards to this NW-2, I do have plans to get a second one of these at some point, because I would like to run 2 of them on a consist. And I really do like these little switcher units. But when it comes to whether or not I'd recommend getting one of these, I'd have to say yes. Although, keep in mind, USA Trains does not manufacture these anymore, so you do have to buy them secondhand. And you got to be careful, otherwise you'll end up in the situation I did. Which, personally, from what I've seen, if I'd have known this earlier, I probably would have got in contact with the seller about it. However, that was months ago, and there's no chance of that happening now. But I paid $227 for this model, which I do not think that was a bad price, considering that they're out of production and what have you. So I think it was a really good deal, although I would have preferred a few dollars knocked off for some of the problems I had. But I don't know. It is what it is, I guess. Anyways, that's going to be it for this review. You guys can feel free to let me know your thoughts on this model in the comments down below. Also, feel free to let me know your thoughts on USA Trains products in general. And till next time, I will see you guys soon.